interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
I'm back. That still has a nice beat to it. Still seated twerking to bounce. New year, and that song still has a vibe in 2025. Also, it's time for a new intro. I am in with a podcast change. I added the F.A.A.F.O to it, but I'm back with the same formula that has allowed me to be successful in the past. I've set realistic intention. I plan on being present and following through, but I still intend to remain petty and hold grudges. Not all intentions need to be positive. Also, I will be unengaged and unbothered by people and things in my life that do not serve me. That means parasitic people, unsolicited judgments, biased newspapers, and mainstream banks. I will not apologize for maintaining my mental peace. Happy and unbothered and at peace because I'm at unbothered. All day, every day, being unbothered is my way. Join me. It's going to start thundering on the day or the time that I need to record, but so be it. I don't know who needs to hear this, but I would like to start this podcast off with an intention. My intention is to always be thankful in any point in my life. Because you want to know why? Ask me why. Because when we can be thankful, it keeps the concern down for absolutely nothing. And it keeps arrogance away because you know just as fast as you can be thankful, there are so many things that could happen to remove your hope and your thankfulness. And it also relieves spiritual constipation, y'all, because blessings will flow easier when you are thankful, when you just let things be and be in the moment. Oh, don't get it twisted. I still and will always be petty. But just like Miss Tina said in her book, you can be both courageous and scared. Yeah, I can be both thankful for everything that I've been blessed with, even when I'm going through something, even when my stomach hurts, even when I still see tadpoles being laid in my pool. I'm thankful for the pool. I'm thankful for a job that allows me to make money, to be able to maintain those pools and dream of something more. But I'm still petty, and I always will be petty. Butterfly in the sky, I can go twice as high. So take a look, it's in a book, a reading rainbow. I can go anywhere. Ways to know and ways to grow, a temporal rainbow. I can be anything. So take a look, it's in a book, a tenfold rainbow. A tenfold rainbow. A tenfold rainbow. Maybe I'm too much of a Virgo to basically, but not too much of a Scorpio to be on some get back. Because the more I listen to Matriarch, the more I realize that everything, the way the book is structured, it's like Miss Tina Knowles used everything that in her past that happened to her in the present was preparation for her major purpose is raising her kids and just being a great mom and a wife. And she was also a brilliant businesswoman. From headliners, then we come back to Sacred and to the House of Darien, to the Darien clothing line, and all of that. How she became a default designer for Destiny's Child, and Beyonce, out of necessity, it's because the group and then Beyonce's needs were so much more than the vision, the short-sighted vision of the labels at that time. And all Beyonce really liked, she was not a great student. And her mom admits that, but she also was so talented and creatively gifted. Solange was that on a different realm. Both distinct personalities with their own distinct gifts, which were nurtured by their parents. And it could be said that Matthew Knowles really was a crap husband. He had his moments. He would act right for a minute. They would go through counseling and he would cheat again. Act right for a minute. She'd take him back. And then he would cheat again. And then in between, there was a paternity scandal. She still took him back. The things that would have taken out most people, maybe he decided to act right that last time because, holy crap, Beyonce got rid of him as her manager. And I have a bug in my house that I gotta get. Maybe that's why he calmed down enough and had time to do the work, because being Beyonce's manager gave him a certain amount of cachet and exposure to the type of women that it appears he would be attracted to and he could charm. That literally are not his wife. And I can't even imagine how can you be so slick when both you, your wife, and your kid in their own respect are so high profile? And why would you want to knowingly get involved with someone? Either he's lying that I'm going to eventually leave her, or she puts him out. But then you do this, you'd say and you lie to both your wife and your side piece because you want your cake literally and eat it too. But those days of access are over because you're no longer the manager of one of the biggest pop stars and R&B stars on the planet, arguably. So he has no other reason but to go back to what he knows and who seems to be willing to take him back, even though he has been disrespectful over and over again. To me, it just feels like marriage should not be that hard. You should be able to be faithful in all circumstances. And I get why Solange reacted the way she did to Jay-Z, because her mother,
I did have doubts about it.
Over and over again, he would get found out. They would go through this process. Almost she would have to rebuild every single time she would try to leave. And then she would end up taking him back. Why go through all that drama if you're going to eventually take him back? Except for this last time, I don't know what prevented her from taking him back this last time. They get divorced. She gets with somebody else who basically is just a different, darker version of Matthew Knowles. And I think she divorces him too. I wonder if she talks about her marriage to this other dude, or we're going to see this in a part 2. I've said it in a while. This is a very long and thick book. I'm only up to the second part. After both Solange has a child, gets married and divorced, Beyonce gets married to Jay-Z, and then she takes over leadership of her own brand and going forward. And I think it's just wild, her perspective on it. From her almost losing her leg and having to go through this massive skin graft after she spills hot grease on her leg frying fish. It's just that she has so many things that would take out the ordinary person, and she comes back time and time again, and she has lived to tell us all about it, which I'm actually grateful for. One of the things I'm going to be focusing on this week as I enjoy my PTO is basically resetting and also setting an intention for balance and to recharge while I'm completely signed off and not engaged from work. Sometimes work at home becomes a home just where you just work. But if I'm going to do other things, I'm going to put up little more pieces of Big Bacon at Buc-ee's and just taste testing all the different snacks and see what they have to offer, and just being in the moment more and realizing what does recharging look like. And also hopefully listening to the last like 10 more chapters of Matriarch before I move on to, I didn't realize that Marla Gibbs from 227 and the Jeffersons fame, also her book has dropped, and I'm sure there is a life well lived. After like 94 years, she has a lot to say, and I'm interested in reading it. So there you go. My apologies to Henry Mancini, but a riff on the Pink Panther theme is in alignment with a podcast segment dedicated to a fictional PI and all about true crime, or fictional crime in this case. Don't you think? I have gone from Inspector Gadget to the Pink Panther to investigating or researching how I can maximize my money. And I found out of several things. I'm still in my paranoid bag about there's few people or some people with access to a lot of the shenanigans that's going on in the business world from 2024-ish, 2025-ish on, that play the long game. And the more people are getting millions and millions in ill-gotten gains, somebody with the use of AI is plotting to bring all of them down. So I say this with a little bit of pettiness, or a lot of pettiness. Watch your back. You can't feign ignorance when you legit is breaking the law. And if you're doing it as some type of dare, not only are you going to be charged with breaking the law as it stands, but they're also going to have a grab bag. So if you help somebody, think you help somebody, or you have made all this money, now you're going to get penalties for breaking the law, but then there's going to be a grab bag where they're going to take all of your ill-gotten gains. So I say with that, just stack your money, but stack it legally. But what is the thing that keeps us from being able to stack our cash? Debt is the parasite of generational wealth, or just wealth in general. Credit card debt is a monkey with a bad weave. Why use personal loans to pay off or pay down credit card debt, then you run it back up? That is so stupid. You just increasing your debt. So my thing would be, if you actually truly own your home or have some type of equity in some type of investment, tap into it. Use a portion of it to pay down that type of debt, but don't go back to that debt because it becomes more explosive. Paying down parasitic or just really high interest credit cards and these types of loan as fast as you can, and then work on, if you are going to take a personal loan, what can you do and what kind of savings can you actually get from putting some of that money up in some type of qualified high interest bond or high interest saving account that you actually have access to, just in case something pop off. You can't live in a 95-year-old house and not something just basically fall or break. There's maintenance and there's improvements that'll actually increase. Also just add to the equity of that home. I also just don't want to ever be on this continuous hamster wheel of debt. My goal is to be debt free, and not just okay, but also wealthy. Not just well off, but have that money where you really don't, it's great to have a job and to have you can have that dependable income every couple of weeks. But at the same time, what if your money actually is your income? What if you could actually take a swim in the mornings and then just research other ways to make money? That, and also just keep continuing to increase the principal, and that principal is how you continue to get your money. Starting here, making sure, credit card, I guess, is a bald-headed hoe with just getting on my nerves, but you really have to really figure out what are your true expenses. Your mortgage, utilities, car notes, and also just really realizing that to start off with, what is, how much what I actually need, and being able to save that for 6 months and getting that 6 months of principal to make money for you. And then being able to continue to build upon that principle. I don't know who needs to hear this, but it's really hard to work really hard and you save up your money when you only in some type of savings account and inflation eats away at that. When these fools and their tariffs are basically prices of just eggs and milk, if you're not lactose intolerant, are just exponential. We've already cut off trade talks with Canada. They're right across the border. What is the fallout of that? Higher energy prices, high prices on everything from cedar planter to vegetables, to everything comes out of our great northern neighbor. And they can wait because they know what time it is. And they also are maybe just awaiting somebody finally putting that food in the White House, in jail. But I can only dream. This is what I would gather to you. We have to work at getting away from the crushing debt that basically zaps us of our energy and of our wealth. We've got to find a way to not only have 6 months of savings, but get that savings working for us. So we're getting a return on this principle that can actually support and that can actually be our income. So if the day will come with a padlock wherever we all are employed, we can still have our income secured. And why not? Also, the dollar, they're really trying to trash the value of the dollar. We actually have to have other vehicles to protect our overall worth and still make money. I mean, people worry about AI, and there's a chicken little sense of disaster that they talk about almost every week where I work. But at the same time, I really do believe there are companies like OLO, OLO, and there are companies like CoreWeave that are going to be and Carriage Services, which actually does all the funeral services, etc., that we may not all be as wealthy as Warren Buffett's 94-year-old butt, but at the same time, there is room for us and people like us, retail investors, that can secure our wealth, that can, and it's actually okay to actually have that level of wealth. Make your money and have your money continue to work for you. We got to get off this hamster wheel of debt. That's why I've actually embedded in this podcast notes one of the type of investments that I believe that has the type of earnings quotient in certain things that you basically should look for as far as what type of stock has the potential to return the greatest amount of return so you can actually increase your wealth. There's no sense of actually holding on to any investment and you're actually losing money. You should actually look to other ways. And this is just my suggestion. I am not a stockbroker, and you can take whatever I say in this podcast with a grain of salt. You're going to have to do your own due diligence to really realize what I'm talking about as far as earnings quotient and certain things that are legal that shouldn't be legal. How basically people can basically make their earnings look better than they actually are because they have alternate means that they don't all follow formally accepted ways of earnings reporting on a great level. This is an age where people are inflating their earnings to look good on paper, but in actuality, there are other things that you actually have to look for that makes some companies that are basically truly are themselves drowning in debt, and that something can come along and just basically knock down their house of cards. If you can actually get your money to work for you without losing your money, and you can get your money to make money for you without having to be on a 100-hour work week, That is actually good. And that's why one of the things that this is only one vehicle to potentially have your principal work for you without touching the principal. Some guarantee, some greater returns as much as possible. Because the day is going to come where you may not have your job. So how are you going to make your money? If you have actually savings and you have optimized diversification and you actually have multiple streams of income, how great you will be, and you won't actually have to always be scared that you lose your job. First, decreasing your debt load and getting your savings up and getting those savings to continue to work for you. That's how we have to go. And being honest with yourself, taking care of your shopping addiction, making sure that you have coverage for those things that are going to keep you where you are. If you don't like outside like me, make sure you make that house is paid and that note is paid. You need to actually make sure your utilities are covered, that you get Wi-Fi enough to be able to post podcasts or listen to your podcasts and listen to your true crime shows, because you don't really have to go outside. How much you actually have to pay in your phone bill. Those are the types of things, water bill. Those are the types of things that you actually have to actually have expenses per month. But if you actually have those savings put aside and are actually making up to a 40% return, how great and how much safer we would be, just in case they would padlock you in the next day. And maybe that should be our goal. Not everybody is going to have a severance package, but not everybody has to work themselves to death. You go down for a nap and you don't wake back up because you literally have worked yourself to death. We're a messy bunch, the shady bunch, the shady bunch. I hope for checks is worth being part of the shady bunch. First things first, Diddy did it. Everybody know he did it. Worst kept secret in hip hop. This week was a lot. It was blazing hot, and they had one more witness, I think, on Monday. This is the U.S. versus Sean Combs. And the prosecution had one last witness. They rested, and then the defense had their closing arguments, and then the rebuttals. And I believe now the jury has started deliberations. But this trial, I pity the jurors, because they're basically seeing hundreds and hundreds of hours of freak-offs, basically porn and snuff films. Even with the artist rendition of him on ABC News Live, he's a funny-looking dude. Close-set eyes and buck teeth. This is the worse than The Devil Wears Prada. This is The Devil Wears Sean John. There are Wild King Nights. We talk about possible white slavery. I don't know about all that. Diddy was the character. Sean Combs is the one that's going to jail. The prosecution and a lot of the commentators summed this up perfectly. This was an organization that wielded his power and his money just for his own entertainment. He did some very vile things, and specifically for his excitement and his entertainment, and it's disgusting. He has, for the last 30 years, he has talked over tracks to the chagrin of most people in the gang. And now he has refused to testify on his own behalf. I think that's really rich. And also, 50 Cent ain't shit. He basically is the producer of the BMF documentary as well as BMF, the limited series that is now in its third season on Stars. And he said something. There's a character in this most recent episode named Daddy that BMF and their money laundering record label basically buys out her contract. And I don't know if this girl's name is Cassie. All I know is she's some tall, light-skinned girl that basically is begging for drugs and calls dude daddy. We know 50 Cent is petty and he is the world-class troll, but that was way too on the nose. Well, it was just on the nose, and I wouldn't expect any less from 50. I mean, he has his own multi-acre studio, so there you go. And why you, just like Lizzo say, why do men aren't great until they actually have to be great? He basically could have just been powerful, not talked over tracks. He did not have to be brutal. He could have actually hired consenting adults to do his freakiness, and all of us could have been kept out of the group chat. He didn't have to be brutal. He didn't have to be cruel. He just could have been and still have been successful, wildly successful, but not with all this other illegal activity, not drugs, drug restraints, not truly restraint, not beating somebody down. Didn't have to do any of that. His brutality is what he's going to be remembered for. That is his legacy. When it only was rumored, nobody had the proof. Now we actually have the proof in technicolor and great detail, and ain't nobody got time for that. This has also been a very busy day as far as Real Housewives land in Bravo in general. The trailer for the reunion has dropped, as well as the Lerwks. I can say with 100% certainty, I'm glad I did not record. Last week, I waited until this week to record, but I'm going to comment on the looks just as a comment for the previous week, since I just did a re-recording of or just a republishing of a previously awesome performing episode. I'm probably going to be down to 3, maybe 4, but this month is 4 because there's 5 weeks in the month of June. But I plan on just keeping it to about 3 truly new ones, figuring out which from the previous months have performed better, and then just republishing those. But in comments of the looks, I'm going to start with Shamia because her look actually is growing on me. The more I get on comments and I take a look at it for myself, I like the way she's a beautiful, beautiful chocolate skinned woman. Her hair is fantastic. Her face is fantastic. And her custom made gown is so on point. It looks like they've taken the assignment of gold, and she is dripped from head to toe in gold, gold infused material. She looks like a sunflower. She's absolutely gorgeous. But are we going to just skip by the fact that Portia Williams called Phaedra instead of her supposed best friend to tell her that her cousin passed away? Maybe she thought the funeral director, maybe that's what it is. Maybe she thought the funeral director would be able to break the news better. And that's what she needed. She needed strength. She didn't need someone that was actually going to maybe fall apart. Maybe that's smart, but I just thought it was interesting that Shamia had no idea about what was coming, and it seems like she was genuinely caught off guard by the announcement of Phaedra. But I'm wondering how she actually took care of it when the cameras went down and how that went, because I just think it's odd that she maybe, and also maybe Portia did it that way because she knows Shamia's gone through her own stuff and have her own issues, and she just didn't want to burden her anymore. I just thought it was weird that you say this is truly your best friend, but it's what type of friendship that y'all have where that loss, that someone that you were at one point very close to, and that she also has shared experiences with your cousin because y'all were as close as sisters. So it's very interesting, and I find it odd that she didn't call Shamia or just let her know, or had her sister call her or something like that. Maybe she just didn't want, Shamia was supposed to rep both of them, and she was not going to let that announcement, because maybe Shamia would have dropped everything just to be to her side, and she just didn't want anything to come and get in the way of Shamia getting her bag, even though Shamia may not need it like that. But I don't know. I'm interested in finding out if they address it. What I find it interesting that Britt lied about, because basically Shamia on social media not too long after that explosion by Britt Edie during last week, she made it clear she has her own glam. She doesn't really need her own glam. And it appears that whoever is styling Shamia is an individual, and she really doesn't need copy anybody else, lean on anybody else, or not pay whoever is working for her, because she looks absolutely fabulous. The toss-up is between her and Portia. Shamia, I don't know if they're tied, but I'm thinking Portia may be close second. I don't know. All I know is Shamia looks amazing as far as her first time as a full-time housewife look. I'm also going to mention here too is her and Kelly Farrell, another first-time housewife, organized a cast trip as first year and being full-time housewife. I think what they did was amazing. They chose a great location. The amenities in Granada were amazing. Jab Jab was boss. The food looked amazing. And they seemed to be drunk as hell the whole time, and they seemed like they had a true vibe. I'm okay without them having dirty, disgusting drama. I liked how they rallied around Shamia when she got word that her child was sick. Even Britt and her fakeness, it just proved that she definitely did not connect with any of the girls on a deeper level, because she wouldn't have shown her ass at Phaedra's event. But I think for full-time housewife, having a true virtually conflict-free, because they just needed to renew and recharge. They didn't need any further drama. And even though it seemed like Britt Edie was bent on drama because they weren't paying enough attention to her, they didn't give her that moment, because it seems like she was searching, instead of searching for a connection for the rest of the cast, she was searching for a moment to highlight her, and all we got was fakeness and mess and meanness, and nobody ain't got time for that. Although I think she probably would have slayed, as we've gotten hints of intermittently throughout the season, for the reunion look. But it was all wasted because she's suing the network, and we know her ass ain't coming back. But they rumoring Nene may come back, so I don't know. And now that I'm mentioning Kelly, I think Kelly's dress was a bit much. I like her beat, her wig, her hair was on point. I love those jeweled nails. But that dress was a ruffle away from being a 1990s prom dress. I think if she had gotten rid of that middle ruffle, I don't know what that is, and shorten it a little bit so we could actually see her great, amazing slippers, her bejeweled slippers, I'm sure. But the dress seemed like it really was wearing her, and it was a bit too much. She had a lot of jewels, had the accessories, but it may have been a little bit too much for that dress. The color was beautiful on her. Her beat was flawless. Her hair was beautiful to the point where I was like, who is this? And it was her. And she's not as low as Phaedra was, because Phaedra looked like a wicked nymph fairy. But I think it was down because it was just, the dress was a bit too much. Her and Drew's dress, I believe, was a bit too much. But their faces, their makeup was great. Their hair looked great. I don't know if Drew stopped paying whoever was styling her the entire season, because I wasn't really all that impressed with that cutout gown that she was wearing.
Birthing herself as a stronger, more powerful woman than ever before.
I mean, the character that Angela Bassett played, which is Bernadine Harris, is somebody that is infamously known with the car blow-up scene, with being in the...
So now I'm on my way to part 1 of Big Back Shenanigans, and I think you can only do this in a VW electric car. Shout out to Volkswagen ID Buzz, because ID&M is electrifying them. But I'm listening to one of my favorite podcasts, that Reality with the King, and he is interviewing the producer of the electronic version of People's Magazine. Not only am I going to Buc-ee's to get stupid food, but I'm also trying to figure out if Buc-ee's actually has a newsstand. So if they have the paper hard copy of People's Magazine, because Portia Williams actually is taking on the persona of Angela Bassett, and she's killing it. I've seen some of the pictures, in addition to the reunion the reunion gear or styling that has dropped recently ahead of the final episode, the season finale, and then the 3-part reunion trailer. So I'm pretty excited about that. But I'm also excited about how everybody is buzzing about Portia Williams, and she looks gorgeous. No matter what you can say about her being stupid or vapid or kind of very selfish, she basically is stepping into what Bravo basically hired her back for. She's officially an OG, and she got out of this situation, and you can tell the situation that she got herself into was made for reality TV. And because Simon was not completely divorced from Fallon, it wasn't even known at the time that they were even having any trouble until she popped up with somebody else's baby. That's Fallon, that is. So when Portia swooped in all of her messiness, she basically was dating another woman's man. And that's why I could see why Kelly was so triggered. But then that was so for her life. And then she went through this whole divorce, and she had to get away from him in order to get back to her fabulosity. But it was different than her first marriage with Cordell, where she didn't walk away with anything for that very reason. She was naive, but she actually got some sense. And it feels like now, every time we're hearing Simon Gabadia bitch online, he seemed to have thought he may have gotten stupid Portia from 15, 20 years ago. But that the Portia, the 40-year-old middle-aged Portia, has lived through something and actually has gotten great legal advice from Randy and them. So all it sounded like now is when you hear him complaining online from Nigeria, because he did get deported, and he was a criminal before that. He had overstayed his visa, got deported, came back to the United States under assumed identity. Portia didn't know all that stuff. She's smart, but she didn't know the level of that, or she pretends very well, because I don't think Fallon or any of his other wives knew about his shadiness. So she basically wised up, got rid of him, and now he's mad because he cannot share in any of the wealth that she's about to blow up again. Because she's gone back to the platform that made her a household name. Now, she could have continued to float on her legacy with her grandfather, Hosea Williams, another man. But now Portia basically got her story, getting her bag, and she's keeping it pushing because she's a reality star. She wanted to really, truly just be a housewife and cook for him and be just a very good wife. But that was not in the cards. Also, her baby daddy couldn't keep it zipped. She keeps picking these guys that just, one, they can't keep their mouths closed, and two, they can't keep the fly zip. So she's going to just be her own person, live her own life, and twerk her way across the world if she wants to. Because now she is single and ready to mingle. And I don't know if the world is ready for that. I'm ready to see on my armchair, watch it, because I don't think I got that enough wealth to be able to run with them. And plus, I don't have the energy and the knees for it either, girl. Portia is still in her prime, and she's still got the Omega knees. So much amen. Maybe I will get the Omega XL that Cynthia Bailey is actually promoting now, but I digress. What I have seen is her face is always beat. I don't care if she and Phaedra, they may share the same glam, but she's tall, she's curvy, she has gotten her boobs redid, Coco and Chanel, and I don't know, she may have lipoed some of that BBL because it looks like it's kind of gone south without retention wear. So she may, or I don't think she's doing squats, but I think she's going to have to get that firmed up too. So I'm here for all of it. But from what I understand, that cover is almost breaking the internet, as well as her reunion look. And again, I'm here for it. So I'm going to need PD Boy Thomas to shut the fuck up. I'm going to need any other ex-cons, outsiders, anybody that even remotely looks like they are aligning themselves with whiny ass Simon Gabadia. I'm going to need you to shut the fuck up. There's nothing enlightening about what he is talking about. He is sounding like a bitch that got caught, that got. He's sounding like somebody with sour grapes. It's like somebody outside the club mad that they can't get in. He is who Chris Brown was talking about. He didn't get targeted. He targeted her. This is classic gaslighting, because he's trying to flip it around on her, knowing good and hell well he wanted to ride on Portia's coattails, and he got mad because she really just wanted to be a wife. It sounds like to me, what has been presented, that she really was about the life and being a good wife. Because in all factualities, even though that prenup worked into her favor, it gave her some protection. Ultimately, it sounds like the prenup was also to protect and give Simon if he acted right, and he didn't. He got. He is trying to gaslight now, still trying to gaslight her, but he don't have a leg to stand on. The divorce is final. You ain't even in the country, and again, you were here illegally. What basis? And you are from one of the countries that our current president don't like. He don't like you. 1, because you black. 2, because you're a black man. And 3, you from Nigeria. Boy, shut up and stay out this country. And shut up. And P.D. Thomas, shut up. Just shut up. Just go back, sit in your cell and in your car or while you on probation, and just shut up and pay your taxes and run another business into the ground, because you're sounding crazy. It's over. And he literally needs, you and Simon Gabadia really need to shut up. I believe for many, many moons that I enjoy listening to and getting inspiration from other podcasts. I don't mind saying that. I enjoy listening to, in particular, again, the Monday Night Lives with Reality with the King, Carlos King. I like, and with Claudia and Dustin, to the point where I'm thinking about going to Dustin's live show in Atlanta at the City Winery, but I digress. It's going to be literally on fire, and it's already on fire now in Atlanta in August, but who knows? I may actually change my mind and just stay downtown or somewhere near the City Winery and check out the show and then drive back like the next day. Because again, I have like almost 2 weeks off. I'm planning on taking a full 2 weeks off because I've never done that. So I can do pretty much anything through God's strength in me. I got my knees all injected and I'm moving accordingly. However, again, I digress. I say all that to say about getting inspiration from that particular podcast is because he did not address this latest episode of Real House of Miami on his live. They were focused in on the Brit Edie and the Real Housewives of Atlanta of it all. I'm wondering how lit this next live is going to be now that Portia's divorce is settled, or even though Simon is complaining about he's going to appeal it. I don't think it works that way, Simon. I think they ruled not in your favor in that prenup. I'm wondering if anybody has a line by line of that prenup, because I suspect that Portia basically lucked in to being protected because Simon was trying to protect himself and she just by chance got protected. And it wasn't because she was just so smart and calculating it of it all. I think she learned and got burned her first time, and she literally had Randy and them take a look at that prenup. But I asked two things. Like, she called Phaedra of it all when her cousin Lonnie suddenly passed away last year. She didn't call Shamia. And we are seeing Carlos King interview everybody but Portia and this latest. We got her doing and having an exclusive cover on People and he speaking to the actual production executive producer of that on his show, but we haven't seen her speak directly to this or speak directly to him. And correct me if I'm wrong, y'all. Did y'all remember when she literally dragged Kenya across the stage and got in her face, bucked up in her face, dragged her across the stage? Then Phaedra and Nene was trying to tell her to be quiet, and Carlos literally picked her up and carried her off the stage. Didn't we see that? Am I missing that? And yet, she has yet talked to her. Is she saving an exclusive, or is she doing what Portia does? Y'all gonna have to pay me extra for the real tea. And that's what we're getting. If you don't get it on the YouTube channel and you don't get it on the show, that means she's not going to talk to you. And is it voluntarily to get exposure, or that she knows that Carlos King is going to ask her some questions that she really doesn't want to answer directly? She can hop around the question just like Drew did, because I still don't believe Drew. And I'm wondering if she'll come up there with her bubbly disposition, or if she does what she does best, she shuts down and she won't tape and she won't speak. So, and I don't think she can bully him into getting the tea if you coming on his show. And maybe that's what's missing. And they dropped that teaser, and they basically saying how Portia basically got the girls together and kept things moving. I don't know if I'm with this world of Portia self-producing anything, because we're not going to get reality. We're not going to get truth. And I'm wondering if the Angelas of it all will not allow, and even with her little loud little self. She's like a phalange or a metatarsal or a tarsal. I call their little long bones. That's who Kelly is, Pharrell is. I'm wondering if she was allowed to get away without answering a direct question, or if she basically just looked. Now she's a beautiful woman, but Portia Williams, formerly Gabadia, in this self-production is trash. And I'm not here for her tiptoeing around the truth, not answering anything direct, and standing on mean girl behavior. I'm not. And I'm hopeful that it does not get away with it. And that's all I got to say about that. But I say all of that to say, I really wasn't supposed to be talking about Portia. I was talking about how Carlos' perception, how he is on the side of, these are some beautiful women. He likes to see opulence. But why doesn't he see the mean girl mentality? What in the previous attitude and actions of these women on Real Housewives of Miami thinks that you would think that any of these MAGA adjacent hoes like Larsa Pippen and Marisol and her when she's not drunk, even pre-cancer Gertie and Kiki Barth, these women always remind me of being underfed and vapid and not about anything reality and being strong. None of them are that. Why would you expect any of these shallow, vapid women to actually support Gertie and whatever that white lady name is, overreaction? Because you didn't want it to be out there that while your wife was getting chemo, you went and got a facelift? Really? That's why that allowed you to throw something that's called assault, bitch. And they've been mean girl and Adrian. I don't know where I stopped, but as I was saying, They went on pause the first time for a bunch of mean girl, racist, dumb crap, and they getting ready to go on pause again, probably for the same reason. And it would be deserved because ain't nobody, if this is all they got us with the first couple of episodes with the stupid fight between Lisa Hawkstein and Larsa Pippen. And again, they both got duck lips. And they're overdone. I'm tired of all the Botox. I'm tired of all the fillers. I'm tired of all of it. I'm tired of them pushing and pretending to eat. And they're mostly drunk. So, and this erratic behavior. Julia, that's her name. Julia, the Russian probable prostitute. I don't know. I'm just not feeling it. And they're going to have to do something differently because I'm not going to be able to stay up or even watch it the next day. And I'm also not going to be able to watch the after show because there's no resolve. Again, they're skirting around the issue. Nobody's telling the truth. Nobody is making these women tell them truth. And if you are supposedly clocked in and we paying you $1 million an episode and you doing this mess, okay, it's more than showing up glamorous and looking pretty. What exactly is going on with your life? And why are y'all trying to pacify a white lady, Julia, in her awful behavior for this African-American woman just because she's trying to tell you the truth? Her reaction was just so over the top that it was just so, and again, it was just so dumb. But did Gertie and her big mouth deserve to be assaulted? No, because that's exactly what it is. But neither did Julia need or deserve to be pacified by all of those women. They were basically, well, she brought it on herself. That's what it seemed like Kiki did, but there would have been no way that would have even been shown on camera if it was Gertie who they're saying is over the top and too much. Or are they trying to gaslight her and say this is what you get when you're supposed to dim your light and bow down to Julia because she did something dumb, like get a facelift while her wife is going through chemo? Girl, bye. Anybody got time for that at all? At freaking all. You can take the girl out of the hood, but you can't take hood music out the girl. But I'm going to end this with a word, just as I started this podcast. Do or do not do. There is no try. And that's a word from Yoda. I hope I have conveyed just how much fun I have had in creating this podcast. I've got my mojo back. Just set your intention or reset your intention. It could be daily if necessary. Mine is peace. No mental dumping over here. If I'm acting like I'm not listening, I'm probably not. I'm not your therapist. I'm not a therapist. Keep the crazy to yourself, child. You do you and leave me be. The sooner you figure that ish out, the happy you will be. So this is what I want to convey in this podcast. And that wraps another of F.A.A.F.O has a fro. Join me next time as I throw shade and point out the shade and simply have fun. Y'all have a great new year. What, y'all? What?